Bostrom Ministries. Beginning January 2018, Bostrom Ministries engaged in a whole new assignment by entering the airwaves of the world. Don't miss Ken and Mary Bostrom Ministries Live.
Welcome to Ken Bostrom Ministries United in His Purpose broadcast. One thing that Ken Bostrom Ministries does is we stand with Israel. For Zion's sake, we will not be silent. For Jerusalem's sake, we will not hold our peace. Amen. That's in Isaiah 62. And I'm one of the watchmen that sat on the wall, and I love Israel. And today we have a real treat for you. We have from Israel the head of the Bible block in Israel, and a great speaker. He speaks around the United States. He was on Fox and Friend and many TV broadcasts, and we're excited to have him today. I want to introduce you to my friend Avi Lipkin. And Avi, thank you for being with us today. And you came from Israel. You came to minister here, and the pandemic is the quarantine is still going on there. So you're able to move around Texas, where it's pretty free, right?
I'll tell you, I was in Israel now for a whole year because we were running with our party, the Bible Block Party, for the Israeli Knesset elections, and we had an election in September, and we had an election in March, and I had a pacemaker put in. My second pacemaker, and that's why I'm running around like a crazy 18-year-old. And then COVID came out in January, February, March, and they were locked in the house. And we've been fine, but we're not hurting financially.
Yeah.
But it's kind of like God is saying to me, what are you sitting around watching the walls? Just get on the plane and go.
Yeah.
And so I'm very, very pleased to be here. I love Texas. Texas is actually my hub. In the United States, Carrollton, Texas.
Now you're from New York.
I'm from New York, not New York City, just outside New York City. But I'm now in Texas. When I'm in America, that's my hub, and I love Texas.
And you speak at a lot of churches, a lot of gatherings,
right,
around here. And so if any of you are watching and you're a pastor and you want to have Israel presented in your church, contact Avi. And you have so many different subjects.
Right.
But today you're going to be teaching on proving the Bible.
Right.
So I'm going to turn it over to you.
Okay, very, very good. There are Jews and there are Christians who believe in the Bible.
Yeah.
We read it, we use it, we study it, we share it. But there are also people, good people, even in my own family. And I think in a lot of y'all's families, Texas, and they said, well, the Bible is just a book of fairy tales. It never happened. It's just, why should we pay attention to these old traditions from thousands of years ago that are outdated? Okay. So I'm going to tell my personal story.
Okay.
I was born and raised in New York. And then I was born in 49. In 1962, I was 13 years old. It was my bar mitzvah year, and I was going to Hebrew school. And I'll tell you the truth, I was a kind of ornery pupil. I was a stamp collector. And a lot of the kids in the class in Hebrew school were stamp collectors. So all the teachers teaching were trading stamps under the table. The teacher was getting really upset. And she came over to see what we were doing. And there was a stamp on the table commemorating a United States postage stamp. A stamp commemorating the Battle of Shiloh, which was in April 1862. And the centenary, 100 years, was April 1962. And my teacher came over and she said, did you know there was a Shiloh in Israel? And we said, where? And she said, we don't know. Because theoretically, it's in the part which was Jordan at that time. There was no access. 5 years later, 1967, Six-Day War, we liberated Judea and Samaria, and the Israeli settlers and archaeologists set out to see where these places were. So it turns out that there is an Arab Christian village called the ruins of Shiloh. And so we asked these Christian Arabs who were living there, where's Shiloh? They said, oh, right down there in the valley. They knew. The Christian Arabs maintain the tradition of the place. So we brought in the archaeologists, and they start digging and digging and digging, and they found 4 churches, and they dug 6 feet down. You know, it's all that earth that accumulates.
Yeah.
And they found the mosaic, and I have the mosaic here. I can give it to you after the show. And the mosaic was in Greek, and it said, "May the Lord Jesus Christ have mercy on the people of Shiloh."
Oh, wow.
So that's
I have actually been in Shiloh. They call it Shiloh.
Shiloh, yes.
Yeah.
And meanwhile, the archaeologists came in. They found where the tabernacle was. For 369 years, the tabernacle was in Shiloh. They found other archaeological proofs. And there are very important things about Shiloh. Don't forget that this is where the prophet Samuel was born.
Yeah.
The prophet Samuel anointed both Saul and King David. I mean, there are people who say that King David never existed.
Oh.
But the Bible says there's a place called Shiloh,
Yes,
there's a
yes.
prophet Samuel. By the way, there's also near Jerusalem the tomb of the prophet Samuel.
Yeah.
So what we have here is a jigsaw puzzle, and every day, every week, every month, every year, we're collecting all these pieces to that puzzle. It gives us a picture proving that Shiloh did exist. So firstly, I wanted to show all of you, this is so I gotta make sure that I'm not blinding everyone. This is one of the DVDs my son produced. Then there's another story.
Forgotten Israel. That's number 3?
Forgotten Feast is, I think, number 3.
Okay. Forgotten Feast.
Number 1, this is a revolutionary tape that
Okay.
even the rabbis don't really know about it yet.
Oh, really?
Exactly. And what we have here, I don't know if you can see it on the camera, I'm going to aim it down, is there's a footprint, and it's the size of 3 football fields. And
A footprint? Wow.
what happened was my son started working with a very famous archaeologist, rest in peace, by the name of Adam Zartal. And they found 7 of these. And it's exactly as the Israelites conquered the land, they built these tremendous monuments. And they weren't homes, they weren't businesses, they were just places of ritual. And the Israelites would go around in circles around in the procession. And there is a term in Hebrew, aliyah laregel. So what it means today is that people go up to Jerusalem, because the temple was in Jerusalem, 3 times a year, which would be Passover, Pentecost, and Tabernacles.
Okay.
But this is the proto temple. This is when the Israelites are still not organized and they were moving into the land. And this also proves where the invasion came from. The invasion of the land was not through Jericho, it was more to the north, in the valley of Jabbok, which is where Abraham crossed back and forth, where Jacob crossed back and forth. So when you read the Bible, all these things sound imaginary, never happened. So here in this one, we prove that the Israelites did invade,
Yeah.
and this is called the footsteps of God. And again, when you talk to the rabbis, you say, Aliyah l'regel, they say, oh, that's going up to Jerusalem during the 3 big feasts. No, Aliyah l'regel, regel in Hebrew means foot.
Wow.
Aliyah l'regel means you're going up to the foot and going around the foot, because this preceded the temple. I mean, this is a revolutionary teaching in archaeology, important to Jews and Christians.
Yeah.
This is one of the biggest pieces of the jigsaw puzzle.
That would be great if you have a Bible study group or a Sunday school group that you want to study the proofs of the Bible. These DVDs would be awesome for you to share with your group.
Yeah, and they're not very long. They're about 45 minutes.
Okay.
You know, so you can share them, you can discuss them.
Okay.
Here's another one, Bethel. Now, a lot of people don't believe that Jacob went and put his head on a stone and slept on that. We found the stone. It's there. I mean, it's a very smooth stone, very unique. The only place in the world that you find that kind of a stone.
Wow.
And what happened was that Christians and Muslims built buildings there commemorating it. We found burial grounds. Usually people want to be buried in a holy place. We found olive presses. We found all of this is still being excavated now.
Bethel.
Bethel.
Wow.
And we know that Abraham was there. And my son talks about it. I mean, like, I don't want to waste too much more time on that.
Oh, is this Aaron or?
This is Aaron, my son Aaron.
Okay. He's the one that has the tours also?
LipkinTours.com.
So-
And by the way, these are available from LipkinTours.com, not from my website. That's my son. This is my son's business. But the reason it's so important to me is that one of the enemies that Jews and Christians face are the non-believers.
Yeah.
And non-believers are non-believers simply because they are ignorant. And this does not attack anyone. This just says, here, look at this. These are the archaeological sites. This is the archaeological and scientific proof that the Bible is true. The fourth one is called the divine choice. And this talks about another one of these giant footprints up near what is today Nablus,
Okay.
Mount Aval. You know, where they had the mountain of the blessings, 6 blessings and
Yes.
6 curses.
Yes.
Well, we found it. Nobody never ever knew where that really was.
Wow.
So all of this proves that the Bible is really true. And again, Adam Zartal found this, and the altar of Joshua proves that Joshua did exist.
Yeah.
People say Joshua didn't exist. King David didn't exist. Saul
And the
didn't
altar
exist.
is there?
The altar's there, yeah.
Wow.
What happened was when they moved over to the new places, like Shiloh and other places, they would fill up the load up on that area big rocks, so that the place would not be desecrated.
Okay.
So Adam Zartal and his team took off all the rocks and they just excavated, and then they found this beautiful altar, which is built 1200 BCE
Wow.
or 1300 BCE when Joshua came across. And one of the keys is the pottery. You look at the pottery, carbon dated 1200, 1300 BC.
Wow.
So the point is that if the Old Testament is false, all these are fables, then the New Testament is false.
Yeah.
But if it's true, then the New Testament also is true.
So is he mainly going into Judea and Samaria?
Primarily Samaria,
Samaria. Yeah.
because the Israelites invaded from across.
And
we-
that's the West Bank today,
Right.
What they call the West Bank. It is in the Bible.
Right.
It's never called the West Bank.
Right.
In the Bible, it's called Samaria.
Yes. Now, actually, my younger son Jacob lives in Samaria. The one he is also Samaria, Aaron, but he really lives in Benjamin,
Okay.
which is considered the southern part of Samaria, and I live in Judea.
Okay.
So we all live in those new territories, in the desert, basically.
Yeah.
What I want to do now, I know that we have a little time left. I want to talk a little bit about something that happened, which was very interesting about my political party.
Okay.
But the party is going to require a whole show, so I'm just going to keep it, but it's archaeological in nature. When I first started working on the creation of the Judeo-Christian Bible Bloc Party, which I will talk about in a little while, one of the first things I did is I called the Vatican ambassador in Israel, Professor Pietro Sambi, Archbishop, and he said to me, I only have 5 minutes. I said, I don't need more. I'm just coming to give you my stuff and I'll leave you alone. I sat with him for an hour. And Pietro Sambi, as an archbishop, he's a diplomat, so he's really not there to be an archbishop. He's there to be a political conduit to the different Christian denominations, to the Muslims, to the Jews, represent the Catholics in the land of Israel. And I thought that the Vatican should know about what I'm doing. Now, by the way, the Vatican doesn't really support what I'm doing.
Yeah.
But for political correctness, I went to see him. And he was telling me that, and this is very important, he was telling me that when he met with the Muslim leadership, and I'm not attacking the Muslim leadership, but what I'm doing is I'm saying this is what the Muslim leadership believes. Now, they say today, as of, let's say, 1964, when the PLO was created, Palestine Liberation Organization, so-called, that there never was a temple on the Temple Mount. And that this is part of the wild Jewish imagination. There was never a temple. Now, what's interesting, I own when I first moved to Israel in 1968, I bought one of these tourist guides printed in Amman, Jordan, printed by the Muslims, by the Waqf. And it says that the Temple Mount, which is where the Mosque of Omar and the Aqsa Mosque are, they are built on what used to be the Temple of the Jews.
Wow.
And they would say Jesus was there.
You were 19 years old when you moved to.
Yes, that's when I bought the tourism thing. I still have it. There is also a tourism guide from 1924. In other words, everyone said, this is the Temple Mount.
Yeah.
And but after 1964, Yasser Arafat decided he was going to do something and remove it, erase it from history, and say there was never a temple on the Temple Mount. This is what we all know, but the Vatican ambassador, Pietro Sambi, said to me that the Muslim leadership was pressing him. What do you think? What does the Vatican think? Was there a temple? Was there not a temple? And he said, listen, I'm a diplomat. I'm not here to debate with you. I'm here just to be a conduit between the Vatican and the Muslims here. And they said to him, no, you're a man of God, and you're going to answer us. Was there a temple or was there not a temple? He said, now listen, okay, you want an answer? I have to give you an answer. And I'm not going to lie to you. The New Testament talks about Jesus overturning the money changers' tables. Where?
At the temple.
At the temple. So if there was no temple, then the New Testament is wrong.
Yeah.
Then it says in John 10, verse 22, that Jesus visits the temple when? On the Feast of Dedication in the winter. Feast of Dedication is a holiday called Hanukkah.
Hanukkah.
And Hanukkah is in the winter. So Jesus visited the temple on the Jewish holiday of Hanukkah because it's an important holiday for him. Because he was a Jew. Then you remember, I think it's at the back of the book, or in Galatians, it says that Jesus is left behind by his parents at the temple when he was 12, probably having his bar mitzvah ceremony.
Right.
Where? At the temple.
At the temple.
Where did the apostles go? The temple. And so basically, Archbishop Pietro Sambi said to them, to the Muslims, if you attack the Old Testament, you're attacking the New Testament. If you attack Judaism, you're attacking Christianity, because that's the root, that's the basis of our faith.
That's it.
And so I was very, very impressed by that. The reason I talk about this a lot is because the United Nations, UNESCO, their United Nations Education, Science, Cultural Organization, they came out with a judgment that Jerusalem is a Muslim town. It's not important to the Jews or Christians. I mean, that's a completely crazy organization.
I know. Yeah, they're very anti-Semite.
So what I say is if we study the Bible, the Old Testament and the New Testament, if we go to the archaeological sites and we study things that really happened, all those who come with make-believe fantasies, and indeed the Islamic approach is make-believe fantasies, then we prove them wrong.
Yeah.
How much time do we have?
Oh, we're doing fine. You have another 9 minutes.
So I want to share another piece of history.
Yes.
You know that Jacob and Esau, they were brothers from the same mother and father, but they were totally different. And I don't want to talk bad about my own family, but even in my own family, there were people that just didn't believe in anything. Yeah. There were communists in my family.
Really?
Yeah. My mother wanted to go to Spain to fight Franco because she was a communist, and then she met my dad, and he said to her, choose, me or Franco. So she chose my father. They got married, and I came out of that. Anyway, so Jacob and Esau had a problem regarding the birthright.
Yeah.
And Jacob had to flee. And so Jacob heads north to Bethel, to this place here, Gate of Heaven, which we talked about. So people say Jacob never existed. And Bethel never existed. Well, here's Bethel. And there are Christian and there are Muslim buildings there from the time of the Crusaders commemorating that's a holy place. There are other archaeological things. You have to go there to see how, as my son explains it.
Yeah.
So Jacob was really there fleeing from Esau because Esau was going to kill him. Then he crossed over the Yabok River and then up to Padan Aram, which is where his uncle Laban lived. And you know the story. He got 4 wives, including Rachel and Leah. And then after about 20 years, he decided to come back. God told him to come back to the land of Israel. And he sends out his messengers. And they say, Esau is coming to meet you with 400 soldiers.
Yeah.
So people who read this and don't believe the Bible say, oh, this is one of those stories. I'm going to explain this now. This makes a lot of sense.
Okay.
And so one asks oneself, so wait a second, who are these 400 men that are coming with Esau to receive Jacob? And are they going to kill him, because of what happened? Now, Esau has a few Canaanite wives, but then he marries Bosmat, Machalat. There are 2 names that appear. I don't know if it's 2 wives or maybe 1. The daughters of Ishmael. By the way, I live in Kedar. Kedar was one of the sons of Ishmael. Ishmael had 12 sons. So the Bible doesn't really talk very much about women.
Only if it's necessary to the story.
Exactly.
Yep.
And so the lady mentioned is Nevayot. Nevayot seems to be someone really important as the daughter of, and then there's Bosmat Machalat. Or I don't know if Nevayot was even a woman or a man, but we know for sure that Bosmat Machalat was a woman. And in those days, the earth was empty, and God commanded all of us to be fruitful and multiply.
Right.
And so what I think happened was that Ishmael had 12 sons. The 12 sons had 12 sons and 12 daughters. Because the girls aren't mentioned, but they're there.
They're there.
Biologically. If you're going to have a son, usually you're going to have a daughter. And Esau marries one of the daughters, and I don't know exactly how many kids he had, but he had quite a few.
Really?
Esau had children with the daughter of Nevayot,
I did not.
with the children of Esau.
Okay.
So when you have 12 times 12, it's 144. Little by little, what happens is Esau has an army. The more kids you had, the bigger your army was.
Okay.
So all the men of Ishmael and Esau went out together to receive Jacob. Just do the mathematics. And Jacob was very, very concerned that they were going to kill his whole family. So he set it up in camps, and he sent out a very big bribe to his brother, a peace offering, to make peace with Esau. And then Esau, it says in the Bible, we don't know if he kissed the neck or he bit the neck of Jacob. Sometimes when you love someone so much, you bite them. My wife bites me all the time. And sorry about that. 50 years, And then he invites Jacob to go with him back to where Ishmael lived, which I think is Saudi Arabia. And he says, no, I'm going to go back to the land of my father, which is Abraham and Isaac. Now, why is this important? Okay. UNESCO, United Nations, comes out and says that Hebron is a Muslim town. It's not a Jewish town, not a Christian town. It's a Muslim town. All this is because of political correctness and probably political interest and financial interest. There's a lot of money involved in this.
Yeah.
And we all know that there is the tomb of the patriarchs in Hebron, which Abraham bought for, I think it was 400 talents of silver or 40 talents of silver. All this is not important. It's the oldest recorded real estate deal in the world. This is like 4,000 years ago. And he buried Sarah.
Yeah.
Then when he died, Isaac and Ishmael come together to bury Abraham. Then Isaac is buried there. Rebekah is buried there. And, Rachel died near Bethlehem, so she's buried there in Ephrat. But Leah and Jacob are buried in the tomb of the patriarchs. Now, I'm a very liberal person, you know that. And I would be willing to give the Muslims the benefit of the doubt about some kind of a participation in owning or being a part of the history of Hebron and the tomb of the patriarchs. But I have a problem. If the tomb of the patriarchs, that mosque that they built, which is built on Solomon's temple there, he built a temple on top of that graveyard. if that's so important to the Muslims, I want to ask you, where is Ishmael buried? Do you know? Nobody knows.
Nobody knows.
Hagar, the mother of Ishmael, shouldn't she be buried next to Sarah?
You would think.
And Esau. Where's Esau buried?
Yeah.
Nobody knows. So basically, only those people who are loyal to the descendancy of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and Sarah, Rebecca, and Leah, only these people have a right to this place.
Yeah.
But UNESCO disregards history completely,
Yeah.
like Jerusalem.
Yeah.
It says, no, it's a Muslim place.
Yeah.
So I'm going to tell you something now. It's one of my Avi Lipkin theories. Nobody even looks at
Okay.
these things, you know. I have all these theories. And the theory is this.
Okay.
You know, we've waged wars with neighbors.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, we didn't want the wars. We were attacked again and again before the State of Israel, after the State of Israel. And the president today of Syria is Bashar al-Assad. Now, his father, Hafiz al-Assad, said many times, we have fought 7 wars against Israel, and we lost all of them. We can lose 99 wars. All we need is the 100th war, no more Israel. Because the bottom line is the annihilation of Israel.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm going to use this now in reverse.
Okay.
Ishmael was a warrior. We know in Genesis 16, verse 11, Ishmael is described as a wild donkey.
Yeah.
His hand will be against all his brethren's hands, and all his brethren's hands will be against his hand, and he will dwell in the face of his brethren. Now, what does it mean to dwell in the face of your brethren? It means warfare.
Yeah. Yeah.
And in the end,
Face.
I'm wrapping up. Are we close to the end?
Yep. Yep.
So anyway, so the bottom line is, he waged 7 wars. He waged 99 wars. The last war he lost. Who's going to bury you when you die fighting in the desert? Nobody. The buzzards are going to get you. And so that's why we don't know where Ishmael, Esau, and Hagar are buried. Hebron belongs only to the Jews and the Christians who follow the traditions of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. But I use the Bible to prove these things.
Yeah, we need to, you know, there's so many people that are trying to talk you out of believing the Bible. In order to believe the Bible, it would be good for you to go over to Israel, take one of the tours with his son Aaron, I call it Aaron.
Yes.
And in his tour company. And or if you can't go to Israel, get the DVDs from the website. And what is the website again for the tour company?
LipkinTours.com.
Very easy, LipkinTours.com. So Avi, we thank you for being with us today. We have 2 more shows with you. And thank you for being with us today. God bless. Bye-bye.
This is Ken and Mary Bostrom. We thank you for joining us today. We welcome you to watch us on kbntv.tv, YouTube, Facebook, mbostrom2.com. Also listen to us on WRNO Shortwave Radio. Contact us at kenbostromministries.org. God bless you today.